everyone, and welcome back to All About Sports. Today we'll discuss the recent Bears news in which Ian Rappaport just tweeted earlier on. Bears chairman George McCaskey says GM Ryan Pace and coach Matt Nagy will be back next season without extensions. As for 2021, his quote, "We need better production from the quarterback position to be successful." That is from George McCaskey, and a big season looms. I'm your host, Luca Vitale, and joining me today are fellow Bears fans as well, and Nick Winkelman and Cole Tussing. I hope you guys are doing well. Cole, I'm going to come at you first. What is your reaction to George McCaskey bringing back Pace and Nagy for next season?
It was shocking because a lot of Bears fans expected, of course, all three, Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky, to be gone all after that, Saints debacle in the wild card game. A lot of Bears fans agreed the Bears should not even made the playoffs. The playoffs should have been given to the Cardinals, who probably were way more deserving. Of course, Matt Nagy was brought from Kansas City, learning under Andy Reid, being the offensive guru that he is. And unfortunately, things haven't panned out. He tries to turn Trubisky into someone he's not. Of course, Ryan Pace has made some mistakes when it comes to the Robert Quinn trade earlier in the offseason last year. And of course, the whole Jimmy Graham situation and drafting a tight end Cole Kmet in the NFL draft, that whole situation. And, people go on and on the last few years about, of course, infamously, Ryan Pace trade up from the 3rd overall pick to the 2nd overall pick to take Mitch Trubisky out of North Carolina, when everyone knew and their mom knew that Deshaun Watson was the quarterback that was the best player in the draft.
What do you think, super fan Trubisky? What do you think?
Mitch Trubisky is being used as the biggest scapegoat I've ever seen. It's honestly ridiculous. Like, everyone's just like, yeah, so Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are basically the greatest GM and head coach of all time. But you see, we have Mitch Trubisky holding us back, or we'd be in the Super Bowl by now. Like, they're holding on to him so that they can use him as an excuse, which is ridiculous. Like, they've somehow made it not their fault that he's on the team, not their fault that he's playing poorly. I mean, it's insane.
Which I hate that.
Yeah, he's blamed for everything.
Yeah, I hate that way of thinking because obviously Nagy wasn't there when, they took the Trubisky in the draft, but Pace was there when he made the decision. This is the guy you wanted. This is the guy you got. This is the guy you sacrificed a ton of assets and a ton of draft capital for. You got him. Now, why are you saying, oh, if we had Deshaun Watson, we would have been in the Super Bowl? This is the guy you wanted. Why are you falling back on your own decision?
And, guys, I just got to say something. Ryan Pace's tenure has been too long thus far. In the 6 years he has been the GM for the Chicago Bears, he has a record of 42-54. That's ridiculous. This guy should have been gone, okay? But let me be very clear here. George McCaskey owes every Bears fan an apology, okay? I am ticked off what has happened. It is clear that George McCaskey prioritizes money over championships, okay? Bear Nation, this is just not okay. They are not okay with mediocrity. It has been clear. You have had 2 8-8 seasons, the past 2 seasons, and you only made the playoffs this season because of the extended playoff format. And you actually had to depend on John Wolford, the guy who was a LinkedIn finance major, to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, and by the way, you got smoked by the Packers twice. You looked embarrassing against the Saints, and you were 1-7 versus playoff teams in 2020. So that just is very clear to me. You are mediocre at best. We need to remember that Matt Nagy was hired to be the offense genius, that he was hired to instill the Kansas City Chiefs offense in the Chicago Bears DNA, which clearly did not happen. You were supposed to develop Mitch Trubisky. That didn't happen. In the situation, you hired a guy to be the offense guru, okay? He is not doing his job clearly. Last season, this Bears offense, they were ranked 26th in the league, 25th with the running game, and 22nd in the passing game. Do you think that is average? That is below average. And this is the stat that I found alarming. I'll give it back to you guys after this, but I find this stat alarming. The Bears offense has scored 1 or fewer touchdowns in 19 of 51 games under Matt Nagy, and this is including the playoffs. That is alarming to me. And you learned under the best Andy Reid.
And to come off that, point about scoring a touchdown or less 18 times, just for context, that is worse than the Bengals. That is worse than the Jets. And that's worse than the Jaguars. And here's the thing about those differences. Obviously, the Jets are in New York, but the Bengals aren't in a big market. The Jaguars aren't in a big market. Is Chicago in one of the biggest markets in the world? Yes.
Yeah, and Cole, you bring up a very good point. I think Chicago is the third largest market, sports market rather, in the United States. You got New York and you got Los Angeles, and then you got Chicago. We need to understand something, that the offense is trash. Okay, we need to admit that right now. Now, has Mitch Trubisky gotten any better? No, I'm not exonerating him from any blame, but like you said, Nick, he is used as a scapegoat. Okay, we need to be pointing the finger not just at Mitchell Trubisky, but at Matt Nagy and Brian Pace. Those are the two that wanted to bring him in. I'm not saying Matt Nagy wanted to bring him in. I'm saying that his job was to develop it, and he even failed miserably. Okay. Anthony Miller can't run his routes. Okay. They can't routinely score. Too many third and outs. Bad play calling from Matt Nagy. So it's clearly not just Mitch Trubisky's fault. This has to do with play calling. It has to do with personnel. Okay, that's not Trubisky's fault. He has to work what is given to him at his disposal. And the last time I checked, Allen Robinson is a free agent. Now that they bring Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy back, why would he want to come back? He knows it's going to be the same old, same old. As the Arizona Cardinals coach said it before, the Bears are who we thought they were. And except this time, the Bears fans know they were not let off the hook.
Well, I mean, let's look at how the offense progressed this season and what made it successful. Okay. The more Matt Nagy's decision-making was away from the offense, the more successful it got. Matt Nagy gives up play calling, we get a little better. Matt Nagy is forced to put Mitch Trubisky back in because of an injury to Nick Foles, the guy that Nagy chose. The offense gets better. We stop running up the middle every single 1st and 10. Shocker, the offense gets better. I mean, anyone who's played one game of Madden or watched football in their life could have told you that running David Montgomery up the middle every 1st and 10 was going to get predictable. That's like with the first game, the playoff game against the Saints, the first play was like a pass for 3 yards. I was ecstatic. We might as well have scored a touchdown because it was not a run play up the middle. Like, I just want to see Matt Nagy gone so bad.
Well, first of all, you said they improved after he gave up the play calling duties. Well, no duh. They were playing bottom the barrel defenses in the National Football League. They don't make the schedule, but they sure look better. The Texans are a bottom the barrel defense. The Minnesota Vikings are. The Jacksonville Jaguars are. They look like rock stars out there because they were playing bottom the barrel defenses. So let's be very clear here. When they had to go up against the Packers, they looked like trash because the Packers defense is in the top of the league, about 13th, I would say. But with Ryan Pace, the problem with him is that he should never be allowed to handpick another quarterback again, but he is now given the opportunity to do so. Probably Mac Jones or a Trey Lance. I don't know. But he has further set back further back. He's set the organization back. It's that simple. Bad coaching hires, questionable trades, poor player signing. Those are all valid reasons as to why he should be gone. But of course, he is not gone, so we have to deal another year of this. But when we have Trubisky here, he just does not seem a quarterback to me that can overcome adversity. Yes, he overcame adversity coming off the bench, but he is too streaky. He is way too streaky. I'm not saying he makes the play calls and all that, but you have got to be able to pass further than 10 yards on each play. If you cannot launch a pass down the field more than once, are you really a good quarterback? The answer to that is no, you're not.
He can. He launched 28 yards to Javon Wims, followed by a 45-yard dime that got dropped. What's he going to do? What is he going to do against that? And then he couldn't throw deep passes much the rest of the game because, Allen Robinson pretty much covered the entire time because that's all the Saints had to do. Because Darnell Mooney, the only other guy who can catch the deep balls out, not throwing a deep ball to Javon Wims again, ever. Then you got Anthony Miller, who was only there for the first half of the game before he decided to clock a guy in the face.
Yeah.
But when he's had the opportunity, I mean, he's gotten a lot more accurate. We've seen a couple of beauties to Mooney, to Robinson, just like throws that make you just like your mouth drop, you just stand and off for a second, and you're like, wow, you know?
I
Love to
mean,
So he's just like the same quarterback as another guy in the NFC, Carson Wentz, where same guy with Carson Wentz, Mitch Trubisky will make one great read. He'll make one amazing throw. It's like, this guy is special. This guy has a lot of talent. This guy could be a perennial starting quarterback in the NFL. And then he'll have the same scheme, the same play call, later in the game, and then he will overthrow the ball 5 yards. So that's the main problem about Trubisky. He'll have one great throw, and then the very next time he has the same throw, same situation, he'll completely miss it. Where it's like, well, come on, man. Also, if you want to talk some stats, he is amazing in the fourth quarter, like historically amazing. Then he's historically bad in the second quarter.
yeah, Nick, my concern about him is consistency. He's not consistent. That's the issue. I feel like if he was more consistent, the good throws, not the bad throws. He is almost becoming a second coming of Carson Wentz. And we already know where that has headed, okay? The only difference is that the Bears aren't paying him millions of dollars. That's the only difference here. But he needs to be able to have confidence. He needs to be able to read defenses, process information as quick as possible, and find open targets. He has to be able to do that. Now, there has been plenty of times he has missed open guys. I have seen it. Carson Wentz does the exact same thing too. It's a little alarming to me. Should the Bears bring him back? I don't know what they're going to do, but what they should do is draft a quarterback because they got to get somebody else. A veteran is not going to help us next season, but what's new? They're going to finish mediocre again because the same people are in charge.
I think Trubisky can succeed. I don't think he can succeed under Payson Nagy because I think he needs someone to have confidence in him for him to have that confidence. I mean, when the play calls that start coming in, as soon as he messes up once or twice, every play call after that just shows him that they don't think he can do it just because he made one or two mistakes, everything that they say about him in their own conferences, and it's all blaming him. Nothing in this organization gives Trubisky confidence. He has had to manufacture all of that himself. I think if he goes somewhere that actually shows him that he can do well as a quarterback in this league, then I think he can, because he'll have play calling that's on his side, which is, obviously a huge help. He'll have a coach that actually wants him to succeed rather than want to use him as a scapegoat. So, yeah, I don't think he can succeed under Payson Nagy, but I think somewhere else he could.
All right, well,
this is just...
Go ahead, Cole.
I was just going to say, this is just the unfortunate history with Bears and quarterbacks. I mean, since the Bears won the Super Bowl in 1985, who's the best quarterback the Bears have had in recent memory?
Jay Cutler.
Mike Glennon, Jay Cutler, maybe? Which, if Jay Cutler is your best quarterback in 30 years, how great is your franchise when it comes to quarterbacks?
So the last franchise quarterback the team has had was Sid Luckman from the 1960s. So let's be very clear. The 1960s, okay? I think Nixon was president, or even Eisenhower the last time they had a quarterback, okay? I'm not good at history, so that may be wrong. But the thing is, when you look at the quarterbacks that the Bears have in recent memory, you got Jim McMahon, you got Sexy Rexy, you got Kyle Orton, you got Josh McCown, Caleb Haney, Jay Cutler, Chase Daniel. The list goes on and on and on. All of them have been busts, okay? Jay Cutler was a bust, okay? Not just because he had no leadership, but he constantly threw the ball to the opposite team. That's the thing. I mean, even the Packers, he was famous for throwing the ball to the green and yellow, okay? That was just famous of all times. But when you look at Trubisky here, the problem with him is that we look at Nagy. I look at him every time. That game on Sunday, he had his hand in that jar, okay? That play calling was flat beyond belief. They look like the same offense than they did when Nick Foles was playing quarterback. They look the exact same, except Trubisky is a mobile quarterback, so that's alarming to me. We all knew Bill Lazor was not calling that game on Sunday. They looked flat beyond belief, and who knows? Nagy couldn't have been calling that game against the Packers. We do not know if he actually got those play calling duties back because he's not going to admit that. Why would he? The thing is, though, we know what he can do as a play calling. He can't do it. He just simply cannot do it. He does not know what he is doing. He can be a head coach, fine, but he cannot be the play caller. This offense is not for him. It's that simple to me. We'll do a little talk about the draft. So, Nick, I'll start with you. Who do the Bears draft with the number, I think it's 20th overall pick?
You know what? I don't want to see us draft a quarterback, mainly because I don't want to see Pace and Nagy have any control over a quarterback. I know you said a veteran quarterback won't help us, but like, I don't know. I'd like just a year of like Ryan Fitzpatrick or something. I would take that, you know, someone who's already established too much for them to get ruined, you know. First round, I don't know. Is this a good receiver draft? I'd like to take a receiver if there's a good one available. Obviously, with us probably losing Robinson, hopefully losing, you know, Javon Wims or, you know, Darnell Mooney's a receiver one, which is great. He's a viable receiver one, at least future of his career. But he still needs someone to line up next to him who is a viable receiver two to make him a viable receiver one. What else do we need? We're probably going to lose a couple defensive places. We're going to need to replace them. You know, O-lineman would be nice. So those are the three main things. Just replace whatever we lose on defense, O-line, wide receiver.
Oh, what do you think?
If you want to talk about wide receiver, of course, Devontae Smith is probably going to be a top 5 draft pick, the Heisman winner out of Alabama. Of course, Jamar Chase from LSU, he's going to be a most likely top 10 draft pick. If you want to look at wide receivers, you're probably going to look at a guy like Jalen Waddle from Alabama for a late round pick. Of course, he has the injury concern right now, but for who I want to see the Bears take with the most likely 20th pick in the first round is Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. He's seen as a top 5 tackle in the class, but he will fall to the deep first round because of how great offensive tackle is in this draft. Of course, you have Penei Sewell from Oregon. You have Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, who's also a top 5 pick. You have Elijah Vera Tucker from USC, who's probably going to be a top 10, top 12 pick. You pair Darrisaw with Daniels and Whitehair. Suddenly, you now have somewhat of a decent O-line, which will help David Montgomery.
So I have 2 options here. Both of them are from Alabama. Okay, so we need another running back, in my opinion, because David Montgomery is out there constantly. The guy needs some rest, okay? Tariq Cohen will be back, but I feel like Najee Harris can be our second running back here. I feel like if you trade Tariq Cohen, you can get something back in return. Why not? I feel like Najee Harris is a great running back. He could be the second coming of David Montgomery. He's already rising the occasion, so you can use him. Or what Ryan Pace does, I mean, he's always doing the unthinkable here. Who knows? You could take a Mac Jones and he doesn't play to the next year because I don't want Matt Nagy having his fingerprints on it. That it's simple as that. So you take Mac Jones. You saw what he did against Ohio State. He torched them over 400 yards passing. I mean, that was ridiculous. Devontae Smith had at least 200 of those. So we just saw what happened, and I think Mac Jones would be a great addition to the Bears. I mean, the history of quarterbacks, hopefully it can end with Mac Jones if they decide to draft him, but I feel like Najee Harris or Mac Jones would be a good option. On that note, you two, thanks for joining me today for this Bears episode. Everyone, thanks for tuning in for All About Sports. Be sure to like this video and to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you around.